When he saw the waitress drawing on a napkin, the millionaire froze when he saw the drawing. It was the exact same drawing his daughter used to make before she disappeared 18 years ago. Samuel Hargrove's polished shoes clicked against the marble floor of Luminescent, Chicago's most exclusive restaurant. The maitre d' greeted him with practiced deference. "Your usual table, Mr. Hargrove." Samuel nodded, his expression impassive. The staff knew better than to engage him in conversation. Not on May 7th for 18 years. He had dined alone on this date, a ritual of remembrance that no business emergency or social obligation could interrupt. As he settled into his corner table, positioned to give him a view of the entire restaurant while remaining somewhat secluded, Samuel adjusted his perfectly tailored suit jacket. At 55, he still maintained the disciplined physique of a much younger man, though strands of silver now dominated his once dark hair. The only sign of his inner turmoil was the slight tightening around his eyes as he glanced at his watch. 7:18 p.m., the exact time Madison had been discovered missing from her bedroom. "Good evening, sir. May I get you something to drink while you look at the menu?" Samuel looked up to see a young woman, perhaps in her early 20s, with chestnut hair pulled back into a neat ponytail. Her name tag read Megan. She wasn't his usual server. "McAllen, 25. Neat," he replied, his voice low and controlled. "And I won't need the menu. I'll have the filet, medium rare." "Of course, sir," Megan replied with a genuine smile that momentarily pierced through Samuel's carefully constructed wall. She didn't seem intimidated by him. Unlike most people, while waiting for his scotch, Samuel reflexively checked his phone. Scrolling through emails from his executive team, Hargrove Industries had just acquired its third pharmaceutical company this year, adding to the sprawling corporate empire he had built. Business success had been his refuge, the one arena where control was possible when his personal life had been shattered beyond repair. When Megan returned with his drink, Samuel noticed something unusual. During the lull in service, she had stepped aside to the server station and was absently sketching on a napkin. Most waitstaff at Luminescent would never risk being caught doing anything but attending to guests, but she seemed lost in her own world. Pen moving with quick, confident strokes, his curiosity piqued. Samuel observed her between sips of his scotch. There was something vaguely familiar about her concentrated expression, the slight furrow between her brows as she drew, when she moved to serve another table, leaving her napkin behind. Samuel found himself inexplicably drawn to it. He waited until the staff moved away from the station. Then, with a casualness that belied his racing heart, he approached and glanced down at the napkin. The glass of scotch nearly slipped from his hand. Staring back at him was a haunting image he hadn't seen in 18 years. A small girl holding hands with what appeared to be a bird, floating beneath a crescent moon. The drawing was simple but executed with an uncanny precision. The girl's hair flowing as if underwater, the bird's wings slightly extended. Samuel's throat tightened. This specific image had been Madison's obsession. His 5-year-old daughter had drawn it countless times before she vanished. On paper, in her coloring books, even on her bedroom wall once with crayons. The police had documented it during their investigation. But the drawing had never been released to the media. It was a detail known only to the immediate family and the investigators. Yet here it was, casually sketched by a young waitress who couldn't possibly have any connection to his daughter's case. Samuel returned to his table, his mind racing. When Megan brought his steak, he studied her more carefully. She had delicate features, with something in the curve of her smile that tugged at his memory. "Is everything all right with your meal, sir?" she asked, noticing his scrutiny. "Yes," Samuel said, then added impulsively, "That was an interesting drawing you were working on." Her cheeks flushed slightly. "Oh, you saw that. Sorry. I shouldn't be doodling during shifts." "No apology necessary. It was intriguing. A little girl with a bird." Megan's expression shifted, a hint of confusion crossing her features. "It's silly, really. Just something I've drawn since I was a kid. I don't even know why." "You've been drawing it for a long time, then?" "For as long as I can remember," she admitted. "My mom," she hesitated, a shadow passing over her face. "My late mom used to say I would draw it even before I could properly hold a pencil." Samuel's heart pounded against his ribs. "I'm sorry about your mother." "Thank you. It was just a few months ago," she said, her professional smile returning, though it didn't reach her eyes. "Can I get you anything else, Mr. Hargrove?" She knew his name. Of course she would. He was a regular, and her job required recognizing important patrons. Still, hearing his name from her lips sent an inexplicable chill down his spine. "No, thank you," he replied, his mind already formulating a plan. Throughout the remainder of his meal, Samuel observed Megan. She moved with a quiet grace, efficient but never hurried. Occasionally, when she thought no one was watching, a melancholy would settle over her features. By the time Samuel requested his check, he had made a decision. He left his usual generous tip. Along with his business card, on the back, he had written, "Your drawing caught my eye. Hargrove Industries is looking for a graphic design intern. Call if interested." It was a risk, perhaps even foolish. The odds of this young woman having any connection to Madison were astronomically small. The drawing could be a coincidence. Or perhaps something she had seen years ago in a newspaper article about the case that had lodged in her subconscious. Yet as Samuel left the restaurant and stepped into the cool Chicago evening, he felt something he hadn't experienced in years. Hope, in his car. He made a call. "Jenkins, it's Hargrove. I need you to look into someone for me." Discreetly, he gave the details he had gleaned from observing Megan's name tag and the restaurant. "I want everything. Background, family, education, the works. And Jenkins, this is priority 1." As Samuel drove through the glittering Chicago skyline toward his penthouse, the image of the girl and the bird floating beneath a crescent moon burned in his mind. After 18 years of hitting nothing but walls, he had finally found something, someone, that might lead him to the truth about what happened to Madison. For the first time since that terrible night, Samuel allowed himself to wonder if perhaps his daughter wasn't lost forever after all. Patricia Vaughn stood at the window of her Lakeshore Drive penthouse, swirling aged bourbon in a crystal tumbler. At 62, she maintained the regal bearing that had intimidated Chicago's business elite for decades. Her silver-streaked dark hair was pulled into a perfect chignon, her posture impeccable even in private moments. The morning's Chicago Tribune business section lay open on her marble countertop, folded to reveal a photo that had stolen her breath hours earlier. She returned to it now, manicured fingernails tapping the image of Samuel Hargrove at a charity gala. But it wasn't Samuel who had caught her attention. It was the young woman beside him, identified in the caption as Megan Ellis, Hargrove Industries' newest design talent. Patricia's hand trembled slightly as she raised her glass, a rare display of emotion for a woman notorious for her iron control. "After all these years," she whispered to the empty room. "How did you find her, Samuel?" The intercom buzzed, pulling her from her thoughts. "Ms. Vaughn, Isabel is here," her housekeeper announced. "Send her in." Moments later, Isabel Vaughn entered with a quiet confidence that mirrored Patricia's own. At 28, she had her mother's striking features softened by a warmth Patricia had lost decades ago. "You summoned me on a Sunday morning, Mother. Must be important," Isabel said, kissing Patricia's cheek. Patricia handed her the newspaper without a word. Isabel studied the photo, her expression neutral. "Samuel Hargrove and some girl? What about them?" Patricia turned away, facing the window. "I need you to do something for me, dear. Something I've been preparing you for." Isabel tensed. She knew what those words meant. For years, her mother had groomed her for a purpose she revealed only in fragments. Something related to her vendetta against Samuel Hargrove and the rivalry between Vaughn Pharmaceuticals and Hargrove Industries. "It's time," Patricia continued. "I've arranged for you to be placed in Samuel's company. His executive assistant just received an irresistible offer from a competitor. You want me to spy on Hargrove?" Isabel clarified, her voice carefully level. "I want you to watch him. And more importantly, I want you to watch that girl." Isabel's eyes returned to the photo. "What's so special about her?" Patricia's face hardened. "That's what you're going to find out." In a modest apartment on Chicago's west side, Megan Ellis woke with a start, her heart racing. The dream had come again. Crashing waves, a child's terrified scream, and the strange figure of a bird against a crescent moon. She pushed tangled hair from her face and checked her phone. 5 missed calls from an unknown number. It was Sunday, her only day off, and she'd planned to spend it sorting through her mother's belongings, a task she'd been postponing for months. The phone rang again. Megan hesitated before answering. "Miss Ellis, this is Clara Jenkins from Hargrove Industries. Mr. Hargrove was quite impressed with your design sensibilities and would like to meet with you today if possible. Megan blinked in confusion. My design? You mean my doodles on napkins? Mr. Hargrove has an eye for talent, Clara replied smoothly. Would noon work for you? Still half asleep, Megan agreed. After hanging up, she stared at the sketchbook on her nightstand. The same image filled pages upon pages. The girl with the bird under a crescent moon. She'd been drawing it compulsively since childhood, a habit her mother had alternately encouraged and seemed disturbed by. It's just your imagination, sweetheart, Ellen Ellis had always said. Though something in her eyes suggested otherwise, Megan showered quickly, her mind racing. Why would a billionaire CEO be interested in her drawings? She'd studied art in community college, but had dropped out when her mother got sick. Now, at 23, she was just a waitress with unfulfilled dreams. As she dressed, Megan's gaze fell on the box of her mother's papers she'd been avoiding. On impulse, she knelt beside it, digging through old bills and photographs. At the bottom, she found a small worn envelope with her name written in her mother's handwriting. Inside was a single sheet of paper. My dearest Megan, if you're reading this, I'm gone. There are things I should have told you long ago. Your nightmares, your drawings, they're not just dreams. Before you were Megan, you were... The note ended abruptly, as if her mother had been interrupted while writing it. Megan's hands shook as she turned the paper over, searching for more, but found nothing. Before you were Megan, you were... What? Samuel Hargrove reviewed the file his private investigator had compiled overnight. Megan Ellis, 23, born to Ellen Ellis, single mother, in a small town 3 hours from Chicago. No father listed on the birth certificate, moved to Chicago 5 years ago. Ellen Ellis, deceased 3 months prior. Cancer. No other family. The timeline fit, the age fit, but Samuel needed more. His intercom buzzed. Sir, Miss, Jenkins called. Miss Ellis has agreed to meet you at noon. Thank you. Anna? And has security prepared the package I requested? Yes, sir. The water bottle with the interior coating is ready. Samuel hated the subterfuge, but he needed DNA. A simple test would tell him if Megan Ellis was his daughter, Madison Hargrove. As noon approached, Samuel found himself standing before the portrait that dominated his home office. Madison at 5 years old, her dark curls framing a face alight with mischief and intelligence. He remembered the day she'd disappeared as if it were yesterday. He had returned home late, as usual. His wife, Elizabeth, already asleep upstairs. The nanny, Dolores, was supposed to be in the guest room adjacent to Madison's bedroom. But when Samuel checked on his daughter before retiring, the bedroom was empty. No sign of struggle, no ransom note. Just Madison's favorite stuffed rabbit lying abandoned on her perfectly made bed, and on her desk, a drawing of a girl holding hands with a bird under a crescent moon. The police had questioned Dolores extensively when they discovered she had vanished the same night as Madison. But despite an international manhunt, neither Dolores nor Madison was ever found. Elizabeth never recovered from the loss. 3 years later, she took her own life, leaving Samuel alone with his grief and guilt. Only one other person knew the significance of Madison's drawing, Patricia Vaughn, once. Long ago, before either had built their corporate empires, they had been more than rivals. Much more. Samuel's thoughts were interrupted by his phone vibrating, a text from an unknown number. She looks just like Elizabeth, doesn't she? Be careful what you dig up, Samuel. Some graves should remain undisturbed. Samuel's blood ran cold. Only one person would send such a message. Patricia Vaughn had somehow discovered his interest in Megan Ellis, and if Patricia was concerned enough to break their decades-long silence, it could only mean one thing. Megan Ellis was significant, and Patricia knew why. The intercom buzzed again. Sir, Miss Ellis has arrived. Samuel took a deep breath, straightened his tie, and prepared to meet the young woman who might be his long-lost daughter. Megan fidgeted in the sleek leather chair outside Samuel Hargrove's office. The Hargrove Tower was a monument to power, 70 stories of glass and steel overlooking the Chicago skyline. She felt wildly out of place in her simple blouse and best pair of jeans, clutching her worn portfolio containing sketches she'd hastily assembled. A professionally dressed woman with a Bluetooth earpiece approached. Miss Ellis, Mr. Hargrove will see you now. Megan followed her through double doors into an expansive corner office. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a breathtaking view of Lake Michigan. Samuel Hargrove stood by his desk, a commanding presence in a tailored suit that probably cost more than her entire wardrobe. "Miss Ellis," he extended his hand. "Thank you for coming on such short notice." His handshake was firm, his gaze intense, almost searching. For a split second, Megan had the unsettling feeling he was looking for something in her face. "Please, have a seat." He gestured to a chair across from his desk. "Water?" "Yes, thank you." Samuel handed her a crystal glass bottle as she drank. He settled behind his desk. "I apologize for the unorthodox recruitment method. When I spot talent, I prefer to move quickly." "To be honest, Mr. Hargrove, I'm not sure what I'm doing here," Megan admitted. "I'm not a professional designer, yet your drawings show remarkable intuition," Samuel replied, leaning forward. "May I see your portfolio?" Megan handed it over. Embarrassed by its shabby condition, Samuel flipped through pages of sketches, landscapes, portraits, and architectural details. He paused when he reached the recurring image of the girl with the bird. "You draw this often," he observed, his tone carefully neutral. "Since childhood, my mom used to say it was my imaginary friend." Megan laughed nervously. "I know it's weird to keep drawing the same thing." "Not at all. Artists often revisit motifs that resonate with them." Samuel closed the portfolio. "Tell me about yourself, Miss Ellis." "There's not much to tell. I grew up in Oakfield, moved to Chicago with my mom for better opportunities, studied art for a while before dropping out when she got sick." Megan hesitated. "She passed away 3 months ago." "I'm sorry for your loss," Samuel said, and something in his expression made Megan believe he genuinely meant it. "No other family. None that I know of. It was always just Mom and me." Samuel nodded, his expression unreadable. "What do you know about Hargrove Industries?" "Miss Ellis, honestly, not much beyond what I've read in the news. Pharmaceuticals, medical technologies, biotech research." She trailed off. "We're also expanding our corporate identity," Samuel said smoothly. "Our marketing department needs fresh visual concepts. Would you be interested in an entry-level design position?" Megan's eyes widened. "Are you offering me a job?" "Think of it as a paid internship, 3 months to start, with potential for permanent placement. But why me? There must be qualified designers lining up for opportunities here." Samuel leaned back. "Sometimes talent appears in unexpected places. The question is, are you interested?" Megan hesitated only briefly. Her waitressing job barely covered rent. "Yes, Mr. Hargrove, I'm definitely interested." "Excellent. You'll start tomorrow. My assistant will handle the paperwork." He stood, indicating the meeting was over. "One more thing. That drawing, the girl with the bird. Has anyone ever commented on it?" "Just my mother," Megan replied. "She seemed to have a strange relationship with it. Sometimes she encouraged me to draw it. Other times she'd get upset when she saw it." Something flickered in Samuel's eyes. "Interesting. Well, welcome to Hargrove Industries, Miss Ellis." In a dimly lit apartment across town, an elderly woman watched a small television. Her gray hair was tied back in a simple bun, her weathered hands holding a cup of tea. To anyone passing by, she would look like any other retired woman living out her golden years in modest comfort. Only her eyes betrayed something different: alert, intelligent, and burdened with secrets. On the screen, a local news segment showed Samuel Hargrove entering a charity event. Beside him walked a young woman with chestnut hair. The cup in Dolores Martinez's hands trembled, spilling tea onto her worn carpet. "Dios mío," she whispered. Little Madison, after 18 years of hiding, of watching from the shadows, her worst fear had come true. Samuel had found the girl. Dolores turned off the television and moved to a small desk. From a locked drawer, she extracted a weathered journal and began to write. If Samuel had found Madison, no, Megan now, then Patricia Vaughn wouldn't be far behind. And when that happened, the girl would need to know the truth. All of it. Patricia Vaughn's office at Vaughn Pharmaceuticals occupied the top floor of a building that deliberately stood 2 stories taller than Hargrove Tower. A petty but satisfying architectural one-upmanship that perfectly embodied their decades-long rivalry. Her assistant entered with a tablet. "Ms. Vaughn, I have the information you requested on Megan Ellis." Patricia took the tablet, scanning through employment records, medical history, and social media accounts. Nothing extraordinary. until she reached a scanned copy of a birth certificate, Ellen Ellis. Mother, father unknown. Date of birth, Patricia asked sharply. Just over 5 years after Madison Hargrove's disappearance. Patricia's lips thinned. And the DNA. Our source at the lab says Mr. Hargrove submitted samples today, results expected within 48 hours. Patricia handed back the tablet. Move forward with the plan. I want Isabel inside Hargrove Industries by tomorrow. Yes, Ms. Vaughn. And the other matter. Patricia walked to her window, looking out at Hargrove Tower in the distance. Arrange for Mrs. Ellis to be invited to the art exhibition this weekend. I want to see this girl for myself. When her assistant left, Patricia turned to an antique cabinet and unlocked it with a key. She kept on a chain around her neck. Inside lay a single item. A small, faded drawing of a girl holding hands with a bird under a crescent moon. She traced the image with her fingertip, memories washing over her. A younger Samuel, a forbidden love. A symbol they had created together during a summer that changed everything. Oh, Samuel, she whispered, you still don't understand what you set in motion. The next morning, Megan arrived at Hargrove Tower 15 minutes early. Clutching a coffee and trying to calm her nerves, the security guard directed her to Har, where she spent an hour signing forms and receiving her employee badge. By mid-morning, she was settled at a desk in the marketing department, surrounded by state-of-the-art design equipment that made her community college lab look prehistoric. Her department head, a brisk woman named Janet, dropped a folder on her desk. Welcome aboard, Ellis. Mr. Hargrove has assigned you to our rebranding project. Specifically, he wants concepts for the children's hospital wing that Hargrove is funding. Megan opened the folder, scanning the brief, a healing environment for children, incorporating elements of hope and imagination. Just so you know, Janet added, lowering her voice. It's unusual for Mr. Hargrove to take such personal interest in a new hire. Whatever impressed him, keep it up. After Janet left, Megan opened her sketchbook. Her fingers moved automatically, drawing the familiar outline of a girl and a bird beneath a crescent moon, for the first time. She wondered if the image that had haunted her since childhood might be more than just imagination. Across the office, a newly hired executive assistant watched her with careful eyes. Isabel Vaughn adjusted her glasses and straightened her impeccable blazer as she prepared for her first face-to-face meeting with Samuel Hargrove. After only 3 days as his executive assistant, she had already recognized the inconsistencies in his behavior. The ruthless businessman who terrified boardrooms was uncharacteristically gentle when interacting with the new design intern, Megan Ellis. Mr. Hargrove will see you now. Anna, the departing assistant Isabel was replacing, announced as she emerged from his office. Remember, he likes his coffee black, no sugar, and always have a pen ready. He hates searching for one. Isabel nodded gratefully. Anna had no idea she was coaching a spy. Samuel looked up from his desk as Isabel entered, his sharp eyes assessing her. Miss Vaughn, I trust your orientation has been thorough. Yes, sir. Anna has been extremely helpful. Good. Your references were impeccable, though I admit I was surprised someone with your qualifications would be interested in an assistant position. Isabel had a carefully crafted response ready. I believe in learning organizations from the ground up, Mr. Hargrove. There's no better vantage point than working directly with leadership. Samuel studied her for a moment longer than comfortable. Well said. I have meetings until 2. Then I need you to arrange a tour of the design department. I want to check on the children's hospital wing project. Of course. Anything specific you're looking for in the designs? Samuel's expression remained neutral, but Isabel caught the slight tension in his jaw, just making sure our new talent is settling in. As Isabel left his office, she typed a quick, encrypted message on her phone. He's checking on her daily, something beyond professional interest. Across the building in the design department, Megan was struggling to focus. The nightmare had returned last night, more vivid than ever. Crashing waves, a woman's desperate voice. Run, Madison, and then the bird flying toward a crescent moon. She jolted when someone touched her shoulder. Whoa, easy there, just me, said a friendly voice. Megan looked up to find a handsome young man in a tailored suit smiling down at her. He appeared to be in his late 20s, with warm brown eyes and an easy smile. Sorry, I was miles away, she admitted. Caleb Foster. He introduced himself, extending his hand. VP of Strategic Development. Though that's just a fancy way of saying I help Mr. Hargrove with special projects. Megan shook his hand. Megan Ellis, new design intern. Though that's just a fancy way of saying I have no idea what I'm doing here. Caleb laughed. Honesty? Refreshing. He glanced at her monitor where she'd been working on concepts for the children's hospital wing. These are good. Really good. Thanks. I'm still trying to figure out what Mr. Hargrove is looking for. Hargrove doesn't micromanage creative work, Caleb said, perching on the edge of her desk. If he's showing personal interest, it means he sees something special in you. Megan blushed. I literally met him while serving his steak dinner. That's Hargrove for you, unconventional talent scout. Caleb's expression turned more serious. Listen, a few of us are grabbing drinks after work at Archer's across the street. You should join us. Good way to get the inside scoop on the company. Before Megan could respond, Janet appeared. Ellis, I need those preliminary sketches by 3. Mr. Hargrove is coming to review them. She eyed Caleb suspiciously. Don't you have acquisition targets to analyze, Foster? Caleb grinned. Unfazed. Just welcoming our newest talent, Janet. To Megan, he added. Think about those drinks. Before sauntering away, Janet rolled her eyes. Be careful with that one. He's charming, but he's also Hargrove's protege. Nothing he does is without purpose. As Janet walked away, Megan returned to her sketches. Almost unconsciously, she had incorporated elements of her recurring dream image into the children's hospital designs. Not the exact girl and bird, but subtle echoes in the curved lines of the play areas and the moon-shaped reading nooks. She didn't notice Isabel watching her from across the room. Taking photos with her phone, Samuel stood in his private lab on the secure 57th floor of Hargrove Tower, a space few employees knew existed. Dr. Lin Chen, his head of genetic research, looked up from her microscope. The results are conclusive, Mr. Hargrove, she said, handing him a tablet. The DNA from the water bottle matches your sample at 99,998%. Megan Ellis is your biological daughter. Even though he had suspected, hoped, for this outcome, the confirmation hit Samuel like a physical blow. He gripped the edge of the lab table to steady himself. Are you all right, sir? Dr. Chen asked, concern in her voice. Yes, he managed. You're certain? No possibility of error. None. I ran the test 3 times personally, she hesitated. Mr. Hargrove, may I ask why? No, you may not, Samuel interrupted, his voice sharp. This stays between us, Dr. Chen. Not a word to anyone, understood? After leaving the lab, Samuel went directly to his private elevator. He needed space to process the information. Madison, his Madison, was alive. She had been working as a waitress just miles from his home, and now she sat in his building, unaware of her true identity. The elevator doors opened to reveal Isabel Vaughn. Mr. Hargrove, I was just coming to find you. You asked me to remind you about the design department tour. Samuel checked his watch. Right, thank you, Miss Vaughn. He studied her face carefully. There was something vaguely familiar about her features, though he couldn't place it. How are you finding Hargrove Industries so far? Fascinating, Isabel replied smoothly. Especially your approach to nurturing new talent. That design intern, for instance. Bringing someone in with no formal training is quite unconventional. Samuel's expression hardened. I value potential over credentials, Miss Vaughn. Remember that. As they walked toward the design department, Samuel noticed Isabel checking her phone frequently. A suspicion began to form in his mind. Dolores Martinez sat on a park bench across from Hargrove Tower, a scarf covering her gray hair. Despite the mild weather, through binoculars disguised as reading glasses, she observed Megan leaving the building. 18 years of hiding, of watching from a distance, ensuring Megan now, was safe. 18 years of carrying the burden of what really happened that night. Dolores had been more than the Hargrove family's nanny. She had been Elizabeth Hargrove's confidant, the keeper of secrets too dangerous to share. When she discovered Patricia Vaughn's plan to take Madison, she had made an impossible choice. Now, as Samuel Hargrove closed in on the truth, Dolores knew her time in the shadows was ending. She had to decide, continue hiding or return to reveal everything, including the parts Samuel wouldn't want to hear. Her phone buzzed with a news alert. Vaughn Pharmaceuticals announces major breakthrough in memory recovery treatment. Alongside the headline was a photo of Patricia Vaughn, elegant and imposing as ever, her smile not reaching her calculating eyes. Dolores's blood ran cold. It wasn't coincidence. Patricia was making her move. The fragile piece Dolores had sacrificed everything to maintain was unraveling. As she watched Megan walk to the subway station, unaware of the forces circling around her, Dolores made her decision. It was time to come out of hiding for Megan's sake, and for the promise she had made to Elizabeth all those years ago. The bar at Archer's hummed with after-work energy as Megan nursed her gin and tonic. Caleb sat beside her, casually leaning in as he shared office gossip. 3 other Hargrove employees, 2 designers and an account manager, completed their circle, but Megan noticed how they deferred to Caleb, laughing a little too eagerly at his jokes. "So there's Hargrove, facing down this arrogant startup CEO," Caleb was saying, and he just calmly slides over a folder containing every patent infringement his company had committed. The guy went white as a sheet. "Is he always so intense?" Megan asked. Something flickered behind Caleb's easy smile. Hargrove's complicated, brilliant businessman. Demanding boss. He lowered his voice. Lost his daughter about 20 years ago. Wife killed herself a few years later. He's never been the same from what the old-timers say. Megan's chest tightened unexpectedly. "That's awful. What's truly bizarre," added Sophie, one of the designers, "is how personally invested he seems in your work. Janet's freaking out trying to figure out why the big boss is suddenly micromanaging our department." Caleb's eyes studied Megan with new interest. "What did you show him that impressed him so much?" Before Megan could answer, her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "We need to talk about your mother and what she never told you. Corner of Wabash and Monroe. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. "Everything okay?" Caleb asked, noticing her expression. "Just weird spam," Megan lied, tucking her phone away. "Listen, I should head out. Early start tomorrow. I'll walk you to your train," Caleb offered. Standing outside, the Chicago evening buzzed with energy. Caleb walked close beside her, his arm occasionally brushing hers. "So, the real reason Hargrove's watching you," he said casually. "Word is he's planning something big with the Children's Hospital project. Career-making stuff. For a VP of Strategic Development, you're weirdly interested in a design internship," Megan observed. Caleb laughed. "Busted. I'm supposed to be Hargrove's eyes and ears? He asked me to check on you. Why would he do that? No idea. But when the boss asks, I deliver." They stopped at the subway entrance. "Though now that I've met you, I'm finding myself genuinely interested." His smile was warm, inviting. Megan hesitated. Despite his charm, something felt calculated about Caleb Foster. "Good night, Caleb. Thanks for the insider info." As she descended into the subway, Megan didn't notice the sedan parked across the street, or the camera capturing her interaction with Caleb. Samuel Hargrove studied the security footage from his home office. His private investigator, Jenkins, stood silently at his side. "Tell me what you found," Samuel demanded. Pausing the video showing Caleb and Megan outside the bar, Jenkins placed a folder on the desk. Ellen Ellis moved to Oakfield 18 years ago. Previously, no record of her existence. She enrolled Megan in kindergarten, claiming homeschooling before that. No birth certificate was filed until Megan was 6, highly unusual. And the house, purchased with cash through a shell corporation. I traced it back through several layers. The money originated from an offshore account linked to this woman. Jenkins placed a photo on the desk. A younger Dolores Martinez, the nanny who had disappeared the same night as Madison. Samuel's hands shook slightly. "She's alive. Was alive, until 3 months ago she died of cancer. Same time as Ellen Ellis. I believe Ellen Ellis's was Dolores Martinez, living under an assumed identity." Samuel closed his eyes, processing. "And Caleb Foster. What's his connection?" "That's where it gets interesting." Jenkins hesitated. "Foster was recruited directly by Patricia Vaughn 5 years ago, worked at Vaughn Pharmaceuticals for 3 years before you hired him away." "Patricia planted him," Samuel muttered. "She's known all along. There's more." Jenkins slid over another document. "Your new executive assistant, Isabel Vaughn. I ran a deep background check. There's no record of her before age 16, and her DNA." Samuel looked up sharply. You tested her DNA. Standard procedure for your close staff. As you authorized, sir, she shares 50% genetic markers with Patricia Vaughn. The revelation hit Samuel like a physical blow. She's Patricia's daughter. It appears so, and based on the age, she could be yours as well. Samuel stood abruptly, turning to face the window. Leave the files. That will be all. Jenkins. When the investigator left, Samuel picked up the photo of Dolores, the woman who had helped raise Madison, who had vanished the same night his daughter disappeared. He had spent years hating her, believing she had kidnapped or even killed Madison. Now, the truth appeared more complex. Had Dolores taken Madison to protect her? From Patricia? From him? Samuel reached for his phone, then hesitated. The players were moving into position. Patricia had planted both Caleb and Isabel near him. Now that he had found Megan, Patricia was closing in too. Before confronting any of them, he needed one more piece of the puzzle. Isabel sat in her Spartan apartment, laptop open to a secure connection. Patricia's face filled the screen, elegant even through the encrypted video call. He's suspicious, Isabel reported. He's having me followed. Patricia frowned. And the girl. He visits the design department daily. They talk for exactly 15 minutes. Never longer. She has no idea who she really is. But what? She keeps drawing that symbol. The girl and the bird. It's incorporated into all her designs. Patricia's expression tightened. She remembers, subconsciously at least. What about Caleb? He's getting close to her, as instructed. She's cautious but responding. Patricia nodded. Good. We need to accelerate the timeline. Samuel has confirmed her identity through DNA testing. Isabel hesitated. Mother, what exactly happened 18 years ago? Why is this girl so important? For a moment, Patricia's carefully constructed facade cracked, revealing something vulnerable beneath. She's the daughter of the only man I ever loved, a man who chose someone else. She's also the key to destroying him. Her voice hardened. You'll understand everything soon enough. After ending the call, Isabel remained still, conflicted. She had spent her life as Patricia's perfect soldier, raised to help execute a vendetta she never fully understood. Meeting Samuel Hargrove had complicated things. He wasn't the monster her mother had described, and Megan, if she really was Madison Hargrove, seemed blissfully innocent in this decades-long war. Isabel opened a secure file on her laptop where she kept her own investigation notes. Perhaps it was time to dig deeper into what really happened. The night Madison Hargrove disappeared, Megan couldn't sleep. The mysterious text message haunted her, along with Caleb's revelation about Samuel Hargrove's tragic past. She pulled out her sketchbook, flipping through countless variations of the same image, the girl with the bird. A flash of memory hit her with such force she gasped. A bedroom ceiling painted with stars, a crescent moon, a small girl pointing upward, laughing. Look, Daddy, like you're drawing. A deep, warm voice responding, Yes, Princess, just like our special secret. Megan's hands trembled as she picked up her mother's unfinished letter again. Before you were Megan, you were... Her phone buzzed with another text from the unknown number. Ellen wasn't your mother. She was your protector. I'll tell you everything tomorrow. Come alone. The next morning, heart pounding, Megan headed to Wabash and Monroe. Instead of work, she waited at the busy intersection, scanning faces in the crowd. Madison, came a soft voice behind her. Megan turned to find an elderly Hispanic woman with kind eyes and a face lined by years of worry. My name is Megan, she corrected. The woman smiled sadly. Now it is. But you were born Madison Elizabeth Hargrove. She extended her weathered hand. My name is Dolores Martinez, 18 years ago. I took you from your father's house to save your life. Megan stared at the elderly woman, shock rendering her momentarily speechless. The bustling Chicago intersection seemed to fade away, leaving just the two of them in a bubble of suspended reality. That's impossible, Megan finally managed. My mother was Ellen Ellis. Dolores gestured to a nearby cafe. Please, let's sit down. This isn't a conversation for a street corner. Still dazed, Megan followed her into the small coffee shop. They settled at a corner table, far from other patrons. Dolores ordered tea with shaking hands. Ellen was my dear friend, Dolores began, her accent more pronounced with emotion. She agreed to raise you when I explained you were in danger. What she told you was partially true. She loved you as her own daughter. but she was not your birth mother." "This is crazy," Megan whispered, gripping the edge of the table. "Why should I believe anything you're saying?" Dolores reached into her worn purse and withdrew a small photo album. She opened it to a picture of a smiling little girl with dark curls, standing beside a younger Dolores. "This was you, at your 5th birthday party. The last one in the Hargrove home." Megan's hand trembled as she touched the photograph. The child looked eerily like her own childhood photos, but the setting was a mansion she didn't recognize. "The drawing," Dolores continued, turning the page to reveal a child's crayon drawing of a girl holding hands with a bird under a crescent moon. "You've been drawing this your whole life." "Yes, it was a symbol your father created." Megan's chest tightened. "My father, you mean? Samuel Hargrove?" "Yes, he painted it on your bedroom ceiling when you were a baby. A special symbol between you two." A memory surfaced, pointing up at stars while a deep voice called her princess. Megan pushed it away, frightened by its clarity. "If what you're saying is true, why did you take me? Why not go to the police if I was in danger?" Dolores's eyes filled with tears. "Because the danger came from someone powerful, someone the police couldn't touch." "Who?" "Patricia Vaughn." Megan's confusion deepened. "The pharmaceutical executive. Why would she want to harm me?" "Revenge," Dolores replied simply. "Against your father for choosing your mother over her." Samuel Hargrove sat in his office, staring at the empty chair across from his desk where Megan should have been for their daily meeting. His assistant had reported she hadn't shown up for work, hadn't called in sick. "Sir," Isabel stood in the doorway. Still no word from Miss Ellis. Samuel studied Isabel's face. Patricia's daughter, possibly his own. The revelation had kept him awake all night. "Have security pull up the footage from street cameras near her apartment," he ordered. "Already done," Isabel replied efficiently. "She left early this morning, took the L to Wabash and Monroe, and met an elderly woman. They entered a cafe together at 10:07 a.m. Samuel's head snapped up. "Show me the footage." Minutes later, he was staring at a grainy image of Megan sitting across from a woman whose face he hadn't seen in 18 years. Dolores Martinez had resurfaced. "Find Caleb," Samuel ordered. "Now!" In the cafe, Dolores continued her story, each word unraveling the fabric of Megan's identity. "Your mother, Elizabeth, discovered evidence that Patricia was planning to take you, not to harm you, but to take you away from Samuel. A twisted form of justice in her mind. Why would she do that?" Dolores hesitated. "Samuel and Patricia were once involved deeply. They created that symbol together, the girl and the bird under the moon, during their relationship. When Samuel married Elizabeth instead, Patricia never recovered from the rejection. So she wanted to kidnap me as revenge?" Megan asked incredulously. "Patricia is complex in her mind. If she couldn't have Samuel, she would take what he loved most." Dolores's hands trembled around her teacup. "Elizabeth found documents, recordings. She confronted Patricia, who threatened to destroy Samuel's company, his reputation, everything. So my moth, Elizabeth asked you to take me away." "Yes. The plan was to hide you temporarily, but then..." Dolores looked down. "Elizabeth took her own life 3 years later. She couldn't bear the separation from you, but couldn't risk bringing you home either. And Samuel, did he know about this plan?" "No. Elizabeth believed it was safer if he didn't know. If he was truly devastated by your disappearance, Patricia would believe her plan had failed." Megan struggled to process it all. "So my entire life has been a lie." "Not a lie, Carita. A necessary protection." Dolores reached for Megan's hand. "Ellen raised you with love. She gave you as normal a life as possible. Until Samuel Hargrove walked into my restaurant and recognized my drawing," Megan said, the pieces finally clicking into place. "He suspects who I am, doesn't he?" "He knows," came a male voice from behind them. Megan turned to see Caleb standing there, his usual easygoing expression replaced by something more serious. "Mr. Hargrove sent me to find you," he explained, approaching their table. "He's concerned." Dolores stiffened. "You work for Samuel." "Officially," Caleb replied, sliding into the seat beside Megan. "Unofficially, it's complicated. You're Patricia's spy," Dolores said flatly. Caleb didn't deny it. "I was, but the situation has evolved." He turned to Megan. "Mr. Hargrove confirmed your identity through DNA testing. You are Madison Hargrove. You took my DNA, Megan asked, horrified. From your water bottle during your interview, Caleb admitted. I'm not proud of my role in all this, but you need to understand the stakes. Patricia Vaughn has spent 18 years building a plan around you. What plan? The ultimate revenge against Samuel Hargrove, returning his long-lost daughter to him, only to take you away again, legally this time, by proving he's unfit to be your father. How could she possibly do that? Megan demanded. By making you believe he was responsible for your mother's death, Dolores interjected, her expression grim. It's a lie, but Patricia has spent years fabricating evidence. Caleb nodded. She's been obsessed with this for nearly 2 decades. It consumed her. And you've been helping her? Megan asked, her voice hardening. I was recruited from graduate school, told I'd be helping right a historical wrong. By the time I realized the truth was more complicated, I was already implicated. He looked genuinely regretful. But I'm trying to make it right now. Why should I trust you? You shouldn't, Caleb replied honestly. You shouldn't trust any of us. We've all been using you as a pawn in a game you didn't know you were playing. Dolores straightened in her chair. We need to go somewhere safe. Patricia will know I've contacted you by now. How would she know that? Megan asked. Because I told her, Caleb admitted, before I came here, but I didn't tell her where you are. We have maybe an hour before she figures it out. Why would you warn Patricia if you're supposedly helping me now? Because Isabel Vaughn is watching your every move, and she reports directly to Patricia. Isabel. The new assistant. Megan's head was spinning. Patricia's daughter, Caleb explained. And possibly Samuel's as well, though that's unconfirmed. This is insane, Megan whispered, burying her face in her hands. Yesterday I was just a waitress who got lucky with a job offer. Now I'm the missing daughter of a billionaire, caught in some twisted revenge plot. Welcome to the Hargrove Vaughn blood feud, Caleb said grimly. Now we need to decide. Do you want to meet your father on your terms, or wait for Patricia to make her move? I want to meet him, Megan said with sudden resolve, her voice stronger than she felt. If Samuel Hargrove is my father, I deserve to hear his side of this story. Caleb nodded, already texting on his phone. I'll arrange it, but not at Hargrove Tower. Too many eyes. My apartment, Dolores suggested. It's nearby, and Patricia doesn't know about it. As they left the cafe, Megan felt as though she were walking through a dream. The Chicago streets seemed surreal, unchanged while her entire identity had shattered in less than an hour. The drawing, she said as they walked. You said it was a symbol between Patricia and Samuel. Dolores nodded. Long ago, when they were young, the bird represents freedom. The moon represents change. And the girl, she hesitated, the child they once thought they might have together, and he painted it on my ceiling. Samuel repurposed it after they separated, made it something special between father and daughter instead. Dolores's eyes grew distant. Your mother hated it, knowing its origin, but you loved it so much she couldn't bear to remove it. Megan tried to reconcile these strangers. Samuel, Patricia, Elizabeth, with the fragmentary memories now surfacing in her mind. A woman's laugh, a bedtime story, the smell of expensive cologne as strong arms lifted her. Across town, Samuel Hargrove paced his office while Jenkins delivered his report. Dolores Martinez has been living under the name Maria Suarez for the past 15 years. Prior to that, she lived as Ellen Ellis in Oakfield. Cancer diagnosis 8 months ago. Stage 4. Samuel absorbed this information. So she came back to make things right before she died. It appears so. And sir, regarding Isabel Vaughn, Jenkins hesitated. You've confirmed she's Patricia's daughter. Yes, born 28 years ago to Patricia Vaughn. Father not listed on the birth certificate. Samuel did the mental calculation. 28 years ago, he and Patricia had still been involved. The timing aligned with their breakup, just before he met Elizabeth. I want a DNA comparison, Samuel ordered. Already done, sir. Jenkins handed him a folder. It's a match. Isabel Vaughn is your biological daughter. Samuel sank into his chair, the weight of this second revelation hitting him like a physical blow. He had not one but 2 daughters, both kept from him by Patricia's machinations. His phone buzzed with a text from Caleb. Found her. With Dolores Martinez, She wants to meet you. Sending location. Come alone. Samuel stared at the message, suspicion warring with desperate hope. Jenkins, I need you to do one more thing. Dolores's apartment was small but meticulously kept. Framed photographs covered one wall. Megan recognized herself at various ages, alongside Ellen Ellis. Her throat tightened at the sight. You've been watching me my whole life. Protecting you, Dolores corrected gently. Honoring my promise to your mother. Caleb stood by the window, peering through the blinds. Car just pulled up, black sedan. Megan's heart hammered as footsteps approached the door. A sharp knock, then silence. Dolores moved to answer, but Caleb stopped her. Let me. He checked the peephole, then opened the door. Samuel Hargrove stood in the threshold, his imposing frame filling the doorway. His eyes locked immediately on Megan, a storm of emotions crossing his usually controlled features. Madison, he whispered, using a name that still felt foreign to her. Megan remained frozen, unable to form words. Up close, she could see her own features mirrored in his face. The same dark eyes, the same stubborn jawline. May I come in? He asked, still speaking only to her. She nodded mutely as Samuel entered. He finally acknowledged Dolores with a cold stare. 18 years is a long time, Dolores. I believed you had taken my daughter for your own purposes. I took her to protect her, Dolores replied, unflinching. From Patricia. Yes, and from what knowing the truth would do to you. Samuel turned to Caleb. And you? Whose side are you really on? Caleb met his gaze steadily. Initially Patricia's. Now I'm just trying to prevent more collateral damage. Samuel nodded, accepting this for now, and turned back to Megan. His expression softened. I have so much to tell you, to ask you. But first, I need you to know I never stopped looking for you. Not for a single day. Megan swallowed hard. Did you know about the danger from Patricia? No, Samuel admitted. Elizabeth never told me her suspicions. If she had, you would have confronted Patricia directly, Dolores interjected. And she would have destroyed you. As she threatened, Elizabeth chose to protect both of you. By faking our daughter's kidnapping. Samuel's voice rose. By letting me believe Madison was dead for 18 years. The original plan was temporary, Dolores explained. Just until Elizabeth could gather enough evidence against Patricia. But then, she took her own life, Samuel finished, his voice hollow. Megan tried to process this tangle of deceptions. So, my mother, Elizabeth, committed suicide because she couldn't bear being separated from me, but couldn't risk bringing me home either. Samuel nodded grimly. She left a note saying she had failed you, but I never understood what she meant. He turned to Dolores. You should have come to me after Elizabeth died. Patricia was still watching you, Dolores replied. She would have found Madison immediately by then. The child had settled into her new life as Megan. I chose not to disrupt her again. Samuel's jaw tightened. That wasn't your decision to make. No, Dolores acknowledged. But I made it anyway. The tension in the room was palpable, until Caleb's phone buzzed. His expression turned grim as he read the message. We have a problem. Isabel just texted Patricia that Samuel left Hargrove Tower unexpectedly. She's trying to track his location. Samuel's eyes narrowed. Isabel, my own daughter, spying on me. What? Megan gasped. Another of Patricia's secrets, Samuel explained bitterly. Isabel is apparently my daughter with Patricia, born after we separated, kept hidden from me until now. That's impossible, Dolores interrupted. Patricia couldn't have children. That's why... She stopped abruptly. Why what? Samuel demanded. That's why she was so obsessed with Madison. If she couldn't have her own child with you, she would take yours. Caleb looked up from his phone again. Whatever the truth about Isabel, Patricia is mobilizing. We need to move. Back to Hargrove Tower, Samuel decided. The executive floor is secure. We can figure out our next steps there. As they prepared to leave, Megan moved to the wall of photographs, touching one of herself at age 6, blowing out birthday candles with Ellen beside her. She really loved me, Megan said softly. Yes, Dolores confirmed. Ellen sacrificed everything to keep you safe, just as Elizabeth did. And this drawing, Megan pulled out her sketchbook, opening to the familiar image. It's been trying to tell me something all these years. Samuel approached, looking down at the drawing with a mix of pain and wonder. When you were small, you would stand under that ceiling mural and point up, saying it was Daddy's special secret. You couldn't know how right you were. Megan met his gaze, seeing the raw emotion there. I still don't remember everything, but I'm starting to. Dreams, fragments. They're becoming clearer. We have time, Samuel said gently. If you'll allow it, I'd like to help you recover those memories. After we deal with Patricia, Caleb interrupted, checking his watch. She's not going to give up 18 years of planning without a fight. As they left the apartment, Megan felt caught between worlds. The comfortable life she'd known as Megan Ellis and the truth of her existence as Madison Hargrove. One certainty emerged from the chaos. The drawing that had haunted her for decades wasn't just a random childhood fixation. It was a map leading her home. The private elevator to Samuel's executive floor required biometric authentication. As they ascended, Megan stood awkwardly next to the father she'd just discovered, surrounded by strangers who knew more about her life than she did. How much of my hiring was just about confirming who I was? She asked Samuel. He met her gaze directly. I suspected the moment I saw your drawing the job offer was expedient. At least you're honest about it, Megan muttered. I've had many faults in my life, but dishonesty isn't one of them. Samuel's voice was firm but gentle. That's the difference between Patricia and me. She builds her power on deception. I prefer direct confrontation. The elevator doors opened to reveal a startled Isabel standing with a stack of files. Her composed expression faltered at the sight of Megan, Caleb, and Dolores accompanying Samuel. Sir, I wasn't expecting you back today, she managed, her eyes darting nervously between them. Clearly, Samuel replied coolly. My office now. Samuel's corner office featured floor-to-ceiling windows and sleek, minimalist furniture. As everyone filed in, he pressed a button that frosted the glass walls, ensuring privacy. I believe introductions are in order, Samuel said, his voice dangerously calm as he faced Isabel. Madison, meet Isabel Vaughn, Patricia's daughter and apparently my own. Isabel's face paled. You know, DNA doesn't lie. Neither do phone records showing your regular communications with Patricia. Samuel's expression hardened. What I don't know is why my own daughter would spy on me for the woman who tore our family apart. Isabel stood straighter, defiance replacing shock. I was raised to believe you abandoned my mother when she told you she was pregnant, that you threatened to destroy her if she ever revealed my existence. And you never questioned this narrative, Samuel asked. Would you question the only parent you've ever known? Isabel shot back. Megan felt a strange kinship with this woman, both raised on carefully constructed lies, both pawns in a game they hadn't chosen. Patricia couldn't have children, Dolores interrupted quietly. It's why she was so devastated when you chose Elizabeth, Samuel. Elizabeth could give you what she couldn't. Isabel's expression faltered. That's not true. I'm her biological daughter. I've seen my birth certificate. Birth certificates can be falsified, Caleb pointed out. I deserve to know the truth, Isabel insisted, turning to Samuel. Am I your daughter or not? Genetically, yes, Samuel confirmed. But I never knew you existed until yesterday. Megan watched this exchange with growing unease. If Patricia couldn't have children, where did Isabel come from? A heavy silence fell over the room as the implications settled. A surrogate, Dolores whispered, horrified realization dawning. Patricia would have access to the best fertility specialists. But she would need, Caleb began, genetic material, Samuel finished grimly, from both parents. Isabel sank into a chair, her composure cracking. Are you suggesting she created me as some kind of project without your knowledge? It would explain why she kept you hidden for 16 years, then carefully crafted your introduction into the world, Samuel said. You weren't just her daughter. You were a contingency plan. Megan felt sick at the calculated cruelty. So while she was plotting to steal me from you, she was creating another child as backup. Patricia doesn't leave anything to chance, Caleb confirmed. She always has multiple strategies in play. Isabel pulled out her phone with shaking hands. I need to hear this from her. Wait, Samuel said sharply. If you contact her now, she'll know we're onto her. Isn't that the point? Isabel snapped. To confront her about these lies. Not yet, Samuel replied. First, we need all the facts, and we need to be prepared for her response. Megan stepped toward Isabel, following an instinct she didn't fully understand. He's right. I know what it's like to have your entire identity questioned in a single day. But rushing into confrontation won't help. Isabel studied Megan with new interest. How are you so calm about all this? Trust me, I'm screaming internally, Megan admitted with a bitter laugh. But I've had a few more hours to process than you have. Samuel watched this exchange with a complicated expression. Pride mingled with regret at the circumstances bringing his daughters together. What exactly is Patricia's endgame here? Megan asked, turning to Caleb. You said something about legally taking me away from Samuel? Caleb nodded. Patricia has spent years collecting and fabricating evidence suggesting Samuel was somehow responsible for Elizabeth's suicide. The plan was to reveal Madison's identity, then immediately file for guardianship using this evidence, claiming Samuel is unfit. That's absurd, Samuel growled. Elizabeth's death was investigated thoroughly. Patricia has deep connections in law enforcement and the judiciary, Caleb explained. And she's patient. This was always a long game. There's something else, Dolores added hesitantly. Before Elizabeth died, she was compiling evidence about Patricia's business practices, illegal drug trials, falsified research data. That evidence disappeared the night she died. Samuel turned to her sharply. You're suggesting Patricia was involved in Elizabeth's death. I'm saying Elizabeth was scared enough of Patricia to send her own daughter away, Dolores replied. There was a reason for that fear. Isabel stood abruptly. I need proof of any of this before I believe my mother is some kind of monster. The evidence still exists, Dolores said quietly. Elizabeth gave me copies before she died. I've kept them hidden all these years. Why didn't you come forward? Samuel demanded. Because the documentation also implicated you, Samuel, Dolores replied evenly. Not in Elizabeth's death, but in covering up Patricia's earlier transgressions when you were still partners. I was protecting Madison from losing both parents. Samuel didn't deny it. We were young and ambitious. I looked the other way on things I shouldn't have, and Patricia has made sure to document all of it, Caleb added. Her plan was to destroy both of you if necessary. Megan felt overwhelmed. So what do we do now? We confront her, Samuel said decisively. But on our terms, not hers. She's hosting the charity gala at the Art Institute tomorrow night, Isabel offered. Everyone who matters in Chicago will be there. A public confrontation would limit her options. Caleb agreed thoughtfully. No, Samuel said. Too many innocents in the crossfire. Patricia doesn't respond well to being cornered. He turned to Megan. This is ultimately your decision. Patricia's obsession centers on you. How do you want to handle this? Megan looked around at these strangers who were somehow her family. Samuel, her biological father, Isabel, a half-sister created through manipulation, Dolores, the woman who had protected her at terrible cost, and Caleb, whose loyalties remained complex, but seemed to be shifting toward her. I want to meet her, Megan decided. Not as Madison Hargrove or Megan Ellis, but as myself, whoever that turns out to be. I've been a pawn in this game long enough, Samuel smiled, a look of pride and worry crossing his features. Then we prepare. Patricia has had 18 years to plan her move. We have less than 24 hours to plan ours. As they began strategizing, Megan caught Isabel watching her with an unreadable expression. Two daughters of Samuel Hargrove, raised apart, brought together by Patricia Vaughn's obsession. Whatever happened next would redefine all their lives. Patricia Vaughn's office at Vaughn Pharmaceuticals was a testament to power, floor-to-ceiling windows offering panoramic views of Chicago, modern art worth millions adorning the walls, and furniture designed specifically for her by a renowned Italian craftsman. At 62, she had built an empire second only to Hargrove Industries, driven by ambition and a decades-long quest for vengeance. Her assistant's voice came through the intercom. Ms. Vaughn, Isabel is here. Send her in. Isabel entered, her posture perfect as always, but Patricia immediately sensed something different, a subtle tension in her shoulders, a slight hesitation in her step. You're late for our briefing, Patricia observed coolly, and you haven't responded to my messages since yesterday. I've been busy, Isabel replied. Hargrove has been unpredictable, Patricia studied her daughter with narrowed eyes. What aren't you telling me? He knows about Megan Ellis. They've met. Isabel delivered the information carefully, watching her mother's reaction. Patricia's expression didn't change, but her fingers tightened almost imperceptibly around her pen. And she's meeting him again tonight. Private dinner at his penthouse. Patricia nodded slowly. Good. This accelerates our timeline. She opened her desk drawer and removed a folder. I need you to ensure these documents find their way to Judge Morrison's office tomorrow morning. Isabel took the folder without opening it. What is it? Evidence that will guarantee me guardianship over Madison Hargrove once her identity becomes public. Patricia's smile was cold. Samuel's history of negligence, emotional instability after Elizabeth's death, questionable business ethics. More than enough to convince the court that Madison would be better off in my care. After 18 years. She's an adult now. Legally, yes, but with evidence of psychological manipulation and her history of memory issues, we can establish diminished capacity. Patricia waved dismissively. The legal team has it handled. Isabel felt a chill at her mother's casual discussion of manipulating the legal system. And what happens to Samuel? He'll be devastated, of course. Losing his daughter a second time, his reputation in tatters. Patricia's eyes gleamed with satisfaction. Everything he values, gone. Just as he took everything from me. By choosing Elizabeth, Isabel said carefully. Patricia's expression hardened. By choosing her knowing I couldn't give him what she could. A child, a family. He claimed to love me, but abandoned me the moment Elizabeth announced her pregnancy. Is that why you created me? As some kind of replacement for the child you couldn't have with him? Patricia froze, her eyes locking onto Isabel's. Who have you been talking to? Does it matter? Is it true? For the first time in Isabel's memory, Patricia appeared genuinely shaken. Who told you this, Dolores? Has she resurfaced too? You're not denying it, Isabel pressed. Patricia rose from her chair, coming around the desk to face her daughter directly. Everything I've done has been for us, to secure what was rightfully ours. By stealing Samuel's genetic material to create me, by hiding my existence for 16 years. What kind of mother does that? A mother who understands sacrifice, Patricia replied, her voice hardening. I gave you everything. The best education, preparation for a position of power, the truth about your father's abandonment. And this is how you repay me with accusations. I just want the truth, Isabel insisted. For once in my life. Patricia's expression softened with calculated precision. The truth is complicated, darling. Samuel and I were young. Ambitious, we built our first company together. But when it came time for the next stage of our lives, he chose someone else. And you never got over it. Would you? To be discarded after giving someone your heart, your trust, your future? Patricia's eyes flashed. When I discovered I couldn't have children naturally, it destroyed me. Samuel knew how desperately I wanted a family. So you took his child. I created a family in the only way left to me. Patricia touched Isabel's cheek. You've always been my greatest achievement. The daughter we should have had together. Isabel stepped back from her mother's touch. And Madison, what was she to you? Leverage, insurance? Patricia turned away, moving to the window. A reminder to Samuel of what he threw away. She's a person, not a chess piece. Everyone's a chess piece, Isabel. I taught you that. Patricia turned back, studying her daughter with new concern. You've become attached to her. To them. I've seen a different side of Samuel than the monster you described, and Madison. She's innocent in all this. Patricia's expression hardened. No one connected to Samuel Hargrove is innocent. Remember that? Her phone buzzed. She checked the message, a subtle smile curving her lips. It seems our timeline has accelerated even further. Samuel has requested a meeting tonight. Here, at the house, just him and me. Patricia looked pleased. He's desperate to negotiate for his daughter. And you'll do what? What I've always planned to do. Patricia returned to her desk, pressing a button on her phone. Security, please escort Isabel out. She's not feeling well. 2 men in suits appeared almost instantly at the door. Mother, Isabel began. Rest, darling. I'll handle everything from here. Patricia's smile didn't reach her eyes. We'll talk again when you're thinking more clearly. As security guided her from the office. Isabel realized with chilling certainty that she had failed. Her attempt to extract information had only accelerated Patricia's plans, and now Samuel was walking straight into a trap. Samuel stood at the window of his penthouse, where Megan and Dolores were reviewing the evidence that Elizabeth had collected all those years ago. She was thorough, Megan marveled, examining her mother's meticulous notes detailing Patricia's illegal pharmaceutical trials. Elizabeth was brilliant, Samuel agreed. Far smarter than I deserved. Caleb entered the room, phone in hand. Isabel just texted. Patricia took the bait. She's expecting you alone at her estate tonight. And Isabel, under house arrest. Essentially, security escorted her out after she started asking questions. Samuel nodded grimly. Then we proceed as planned. Megan looked up from the documents. Are you sure about this? Patricia is dangerous, which is precisely why we need to contain this confrontation. Samuel checked his watch. Jenkins will pick you up in 30 minutes, remember? You only come in if you get my signal. I still think this is too risky, Dolores objected. Patricia doesn't respond well to being cornered. She's been cornering people her entire life, Samuel replied. It's time she experienced it herself, as Samuel prepared to leave. Megan approached him hesitantly. Be careful, she said. I just found my father. I'd prefer not to lose him on the same day. Samuel's expression softened. I've waited 18 years to have you back in my life, Madison. I don't intend to miss what comes next. He squeezed her shoulder gently. Not quite a hug, but a promise of more to come. Before departing, Caleb moved to the window, watching Samuel's car pull away. Patricia will have planned for every contingency. So have we, Megan replied, more confidently than she felt. She turned to Dolores and Caleb. Let's go over the plan one more time. As they reviewed their strategy, Megan couldn't shake a growing sense of dread. For 18 years, she had lived as Megan Ellis, unaware of the forces circling around her. Tonight, she would finally confront the woman who had orchestrated her separation from her family, and discover whether Madison Hargrove could ever truly come home. 1 year later, the morning sun streamed through the windows of the newly constructed Hargrove Vaughan Foundation for Abandoned Children. Madison, who now comfortably answered to both Madison and Megan, depending on who was addressing her, stood in the central atrium, examining the massive mural that dominated the wall. Her mural, her vision, the image depicted a stylized girl with flowing hair holding hands with a bird, floating beneath a crescent moon. But unlike her childhood drawings, this version had evolved. The girl now stood at the center of a circle of figures representing family, some close, others at a distance, but all connected by delicate golden threads. It's magnificent, came a voice behind her. Madison turned to find Samuel, her father, observing her work with undisguised pride. At 56, he looked younger than when she had first reconnected with him. The burden of 18 years of searching finally lifted from his shoulders. I still can't believe we pulled this off, Madison said, gesturing to the building around them. From bitter rivals to business partners in less than a year, Samuel chuckled. The Hargrove Vaughan Foundation. Your mother would have appreciated the irony. They shared a moment of comfortable silence, still growing accustomed to their relationship but finding it easier with each passing day. Is Patricia coming to the opening ceremony? Madison asked. Her doctors have approved a few hours away from the treatment center, Samuel confirmed. Isabel is bringing her. Patricia's journey over the past year had been complicated. The confrontation at her estate that night had ended, not with the dramatic showdown everyone expected, but with something more unexpected: collapse. When faced with both of Samuel's daughters and the evidence Elizabeth had collected, Patricia had suffered a severe panic attack that led to her hospitalization. The subsequent psychiatric evaluation had revealed what those closest to her had long suspected. Patricia's obsession with Samuel and her elaborate revenge plans stemmed from untreated mental illness, exacerbated by grief and isolation. How's her therapy going? Madison asked. Isabel says she's making progress. Acknowledging her actions has been difficult. Samuel's expression was complex. Not quite forgiveness, but no longer consumed by bitterness. The foundation was actually her idea, part of making amends. Madison nodded, as someone who had spent her entire life creating art from a symbol born of love turned to obsession. She understood the power of transformation. And how are things between you and Isabel? Samuel smiled. Better each day. We're both learning. She's been instrumental in restructuring Vaughn Pharmaceuticals while Patricia focuses on her recovery. Madison checked her watch. I should finish my final inspection before the guests arrive. As she walked through the building's bright corridors, Madison marveled at how much had changed in a year. The foundation would provide support for children separated from their families through various circumstances, a cause deeply personal to everyone involved. In one of the therapy rooms, she found Dolores arranging art supplies. At 74, she had declined formal employment, but volunteered regularly, finding purpose in helping children process trauma through creative expression. "It's perfect," Madison said, gesturing to the carefully organized materials. Dolores smiled warmly. "Ellen would be proud of you, Carita. Both your mothers would." Madison had spent months coming to terms with her complex family history. Ellen Ellis, who had raised her with love despite the unusual circumstances. Elizabeth Hargrove, her birth mother who had made the ultimate sacrifice to protect her. Dolores, who had been a guardian shadow throughout her life. And even Patricia, whose obsession had shaped her existence in ways she was still discovering. "Have you seen Caleb?" Madison asked. "He was supposed to be reviewing the security protocols one last time. On the roof garden, I believe," Dolores replied with a knowing smile. Madison found him exactly where Dolores had suggested, standing by the railing overlooking Chicago's skyline. In the year since the truth had come out, Caleb had transitioned from Patricia's reluctant spy to Samuel's trusted employee, heading up the foundation's security and outreach programs. And somewhere along the way, he and Madison had found something neither expected, a connection that had deepened from cautious friendship to something more. "Admiring your kingdom," she teased, joining him at the railing. Caleb turned, his smile warming at the sight of her. "Just thinking about how unlikely all this is. A year ago, we were pawns in a decades-long revenge plot. Now we're opening a foundation together. Life is strange that way." Madison leaned against the railing beside him. "Speaking of strange, Isabel mentioned you've been acting secretive lately. Something you want to share." Caleb looked momentarily flustered, unusual for someone normally so composed. "Actually, yes, but I was saving it for after the ceremony." He hesitated. "Unless you want to know now." Madison studied his nervous expression with growing curiosity. "Now I'm intrigued." Caleb took a deep breath. "I've been working with Samuel on something, a project of sorts." "What kind of project requires secret meetings with my father?" Instead of answering, Caleb reached into his pocket and withdrew a small velvet box. Madison's breath caught. "I wanted to do this properly," Caleb explained, suddenly earnest. "Ask permission, plan something special. But now that you're looking at me with those suspicious eyes." He opened the box to reveal a ring with a unique design, a small crescent moon studded with diamonds. "Madison Hargrove, or Megan Ellis, whichever you prefer. Will you marry me? Not to merge family empires or heal old wounds, but simply because I love you." For a moment, Madison was speechless, overwhelmed by the simple truth that her life, so long defined by secrets and hidden identities, had somehow found its way to this moment of perfect clarity. "Yes," she whispered, then laughed as Caleb's face broke into a relieved smile. "Though I'm not sure how I feel about you conspiring with my father. He had some ideas about the ring design," Caleb admitted, sliding it onto her finger. "But he made me promise our children would grow up without the weight of family rivalry or secrets." "Our children," Madison repeated, testing the words. Once, the thought of continuing the Hargrove lineage would have terrified her. Now, it felt like reclaiming something that had been stolen, not just from her, but from all of them. Voices from below indicated the first guests were arriving for the opening ceremony. Madison leaned in to kiss Caleb quickly before pulling back. "We should go down. History awaits." As they returned to the main atrium, Madison spotted Isabel helping Patricia from a car. Despite everything, there was genuine care in how Isabel supported her mother, a testament to the complicated bonds of family that couldn't be easily categorized as simply good or bad. Samuel greeted them at the entrance, his expression cautious but civil. The reconciliation between him and Patricia remained a work in progress, but the foundation represented their shared commitment to creating something positive from their painful history. As Madison took her place for the ribbon-cutting ceremony, she gazed up at her mural, the girl and the bird that had haunted her dreams since childhood, now transformed into a symbol of connection rather than loss. Samuel stepped to the podium, his voice steady as he addressed the gathered crowd. The Hargrove Vaughan Foundation represents more than just corporate responsibility. It's a promise to remember that even in our darkest moments, we can choose to build rather than destroy, to heal rather than harm. His eyes met Madison's, and she saw in them not just the father she had lost and found, but a future unburdened by the pain of the past. The girl with the bird had finally come home.